What's up, guys? My name's Tim. I'm back and I have a new video. Today's going to be about relationships. And I know it's complicated. I hope you're not in an entanglement. Because then this is going to really, hit home. No, I'm kidding. But anyways, so this video is going to be on relationships. Just because I feel like people need to understand the importance of relationships. And I think that I'm preaching this to myself as well. And I'm trying to be more intentional about like reaching out to people, talking to people, like man, like we're gonna get in depth with it, but sometimes I think that sometimes we don't realize how important our relationships are. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about, because if we look at the life of Jesus, his entire ministry revolved around relationship. Like, his ministry was to reconcile us with the Father, like with God. And I mean, even adoption, like the adoption of us, like coming into a relationship with God. And how we weren't Jews, we're Gentiles. Like, man, the whole story is about relationships. And I think that, man, that if we are to follow Christ, we are to have healthy relationships, like relationships that we can enjoy, that are, of quality, and we can invest ourselves into them. Like, so this is really important, guys. Like, so, and I think it's cool because, like how Jesus was trying to reconcile us with God, and the ultimate like goal is to reconcile us with God. Like, if you really think about it, like the grand scheme of the gospel is that Jesus is trying to like make a way for us to have a relationship with the Father. And in comparison to other religions, they don't have that. Like, well, they might have it, but it's always kind of like I don't want to call out any names or anything with like religions and stuff, but like if you take a look at their like ultimate goal, like their paradise is something way like out there. Like, it's something maybe even similar to what you would have here on earth, or like in our like the things that we experience here on earth are just like a shadow of the things. It's not even like the ultimate thing. The ultimate thing is a relationship with God, and the relationships that we'll have in heaven because of that. So I think just in comparison alone with Jesus' ministry and Christianity and stuff like that versus other religions, man, have a like they're opposed to each other. I think the closest one would probably be Judaism, but Christianity isn't something like it's not Judaism. It's more the completion of Judaism, which is that fellowship, wanting that fellowship with God, and we have it made possible by Jesus. And so therefore it's something complete. Like, Jesus made it happen for us. So just in comparison, guys, like, man, it's amazing. It's amazing what Jesus did, what it is he emphasized and stuff like that. And check this out. Like, even in the Gospels, Jesus is offered all the kingdoms of the world. Like, whenever he goes and he fasts for 40 days and 40 nights, Satan comes and tempts him, and he offers him all the kingdoms of the world. And like, if you have like the idea in mind that he was doing everything he was doing for a relationship and to reconcile the world with God, like, man, like, look at everything that he like did. So, for example, this temptation, like, he's offered all the kingdoms of the world, and he rejects that for the simple like relationship to have with us. Like, I think stuff like that is amazing, guys. Like us, we're so easily to like, man, turn on someone or just give up on people. Like, if somebody offended me, somebody said something weird, or I don't know, whatever it may be. We're so easily to give up on people. We if they offered us the world, I mean, like, we would be like, yeah, like forget you, I'm taking off, I'm taking my stuff, right? But I mean, like, if we want to live like Jesus, like, man, he emphasized relationships, and I think as believers we should do the same. So I get it when it comes to relationships. Not like all relationships are supposed to be like reconciled and stuff like that, but there are things that depend on us, like within our hearts, and and efforts that we need to take, to have relationships or to be right in our heart. So I'm gonna let you decide and be wise about the relationships that you need to have. Like if you do have questions about your relationships, I would suggest you talk to people that are like mature believers and that understand, like, okay, like it's right for you to reconcile with this person or not. So it's stuff like that. But I know relationship is like a super broad topic. That's why I'm saying that. So, but I want to talk more on the like relationships that you like something depends on you to have that relationship. And if you can make peace, make peace. If you can reconcile, then reconcile. Like these things are like things that God has commanded us to do. So because a relationship done right can bring so much joy into your life. Like I almost feel like, man, like it is one of the greatest joys in our life to have relationships. Like, man, okay, for whatever, you can have the world, right? But what is it gonna mean if you're not enjoying it with anybody? So, man, there's so much to say about relationships and having them right. I actually met a man who was dying. I used to work at doing furniture, like I would deliver furniture. And I happened to deliver furniture to this one home, and man, that family was so like godly. It was like, man, it was so amazing. Like they prayed for us, we prayed for them. It was cool. It was like it was on the job, but like they didn't even know we were getting paid to pray. I mean, not really, but like my boss. But anyways, like we met this family, right? And the wife like was like new. I talked to her about like what was going on in my life, like, and she, like I was about to have my first like baby, right? And she's like, oh, well, you know what? I have this clothes, and she gave me the first clothes for my son. It was so cool. Like she didn't even know he was gonna be a boy. I didn't even know like it was gonna be a boy at the time. And she gives me this like really cool like outfit, and even his first toy. It was like those toys where it's like a little racetrack, and you just hold the button and the little car just keeps running. Like it was so cool. It was just really cool. It was cool stuff. It was like from the 90s, and it was super thoughtful. And her husband was in the living room, and he was like literally dying. Like they had not pronounced him dead, but they had like said he only had a few days to live or something like that. And it was cool because even my partner wasn't a believer, and he was like just joining in on like what it means to be a Christian. I don't know, it was so cool. But I got to have a conversation with him, and my thoughts were like, man, what are your like how do you feel when you're like about to die and you're gonna die? Like he was laying there on the sofa, and they had given him a few days. And I so I asked him that, right? I asked him like what's it feel like being in that situation? For like a young believer, like help me, as a young believer to like walk through life the way I'm supposed to. And he said this, check this out. He said, I feel great because I'm at peace with my God, and I'm at peace with my friends and family. And I was like, man, that's so cool. Like he was perfectly at peace because he was at peace with God and at peace with his family and friends. So I started like, man, we were driving home, right? And I was starting to think that, man, it was impactful. And I was starting to think about that. And I'm like, man, like a lot of us are walking around with the torment of torn relationships, or like grudges and like bitterness. And like we're carrying the weight of like fractured relationships. And sometimes it's even our imaginations of people. Like maybe they're like, you think sometimes that, oh, that person's thinking this about me, or like, man, you're just weighing your heart with like a heavy burden, and we live by these like our own like moral standards of like, oh, well, I'm only gonna do this if they do that, and like this like kind of like karma lifestyle, and we live by that, but we're only hurting ourselves. When Jesus in scripture, he says like the disciples ask him like, how many times am I supposed to forgive my brother? And it was as a standard thing at the time to like forgive them 3-4 times. And Jesus says to them, forgive them 70 times 7. Like that's practically saying like, man, it's just keep doing it. It's innumerable. Like just keep forgiving them. you know, and it's not always for them. Like forgiveness is for ourselves. Um, and we need to view relationships like Jesus did, man, like that they're gifts, they're opportunities, like for us to grow with someone, for us to have something special with someone. And relationships can produce a great amount of hurt, and they do, but it's only because they can produce a great amount of pleasure and happiness in our life. They hurt so much. Relationships hurt so much when people offend us, because they're that deep in our heart that they can do that. And if we can have them right, man, they can cause and provide like a great amount of happiness and pleasure in our life. Like, that's why we need to protect them. We need to protect and maintain our relationships and manage them, you know, properly, the right way. And so I think it's important that we understand the value of our relationships, because then if we don't, we're the kind of like beings that we like to pursue that which is valuable, like that is worth something. And we need to believe the right things are valuable, because if you're a believer, man, you understand that the things in the world, although in the world they're valuable, like in an eternal perspective, they're really not. And with the truth of eternity, man, Christianity proposes the virtues that the world regards as useless. So it's like faith, hope, and love. Those are truly valuable things. God regards those as valuable possessions that we obtain, that we have. And man, and that's why I'm trying to encourage you to seek those things out. Like, seek to have the things that are valuable in your life. And I mean, one of the greatest valuable things in your life are your relationships. So there's this saying that people always say, and it's only the things you do for Christ that will last. There's a quote, I think it's from like a poem or a hymn, I can't remember, but it says like, only the things you do for Christ will last. And you know what I'm going to say to that? Like, man, with all due respect, I understand what that is saying, but I think when somebody hears that, it can be misunderstood. The way that I would say that is, the things we do for love in Christ will last. Check this out, because in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, it says this. It says, if I speak in tongues, in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understanding, all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. So guys, like, this is how important like our relationships are, especially with other believers. Like, because in the context of 1 Corinthians, what I've just read, like, Paul is speaking to the church about the use of gifts, like spiritual gifts. So he's saying, like, these are the proper use of gifts, and he talks about tongues and prophecy and wisdom and knowledge and all these awesome things that God gives us to edify one another in the church. And Paul pretty much just slams this in there, and he says, but wait a second, like, your greatest spiritual gift is your ability to love like Christ. It's too easy to impress the world and cause the people to think that you're super spiritual, but show me the way you love, and I'll tell you how spiritual you really are. Like, how you care about people, how you care about individuals, how you listen to them, how you try and understand them, and you do it in the name of Christ. Those are the things that last. If you want to know who truly is spiritual, look to see how they treat individuals. Being spiritual is not a feeling. It's not believing superstitions. It's not any of that like emotional stuff, guys. Like, don't get me wrong. When, like, there are emotions in our spirituality, don't get me wrong, but it's really quite practical to be spiritual. It's being the kind of love to people that doesn't make sense in a world that thinks you should care about yourself first. And I feel like this message is for believers, Because, man, we're called to be this. Like, we're called to love like this. Many of the things that we're doing for Christ are without love. Like, a lot of them. And we neglect our relationships thinking that we should be doing these things. Like, and we should, like, don't get me wrong, because check out this principle right here in Matthew 5. It says this. It says, so if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. So he's saying, okay, like, leave it there. Like, you still have, like, the responsibility or whatever it is that you might want to do for Christ. Like, we still have that as a moral obligation. But, man, it's interesting how Jesus said that whenever he says this, he's also like, he's expressing a form of hypocrisy, like, to do things for God and not have your relationship straightened out. That's like, I mean, that I feel like we should regard it as something important if God and Jesus are regarding it as something important. So it's like, man, guys, if you know it depends on you to do something, to be in right relationship with people and with God, man, do them. That's priority. It's priority. I was talking to my wife about this, and it's true. What she said, she's like, our relationship with God is going to reflect on our relationship with people. And people can think everything they want about you, and you can pretend to be super spiritual, but unless you're really in love with God, your love for people is going to be absent. Like, it's just the way it goes. Like, whenever Jesus gives the greatest commandment, he says, love God and love people. You know, he says, man, that you love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength. And he doesn't leave it out. He's like, and love your neighbor as yourself. Because, man, it goes hand in hand. Like, if you're in love with God, you're going to love individuals. You're going to love people. So just have that in mind. So what exactly is the key to the relationship? Because I know it's difficult. I know it's complicated. I know that, man, like, we get into relationships, man, and they get so messed up. And sometimes we're like, man, we think, okay, how do I go about fixing this? Or how do I go about the relationship? Do I need to leave that relationship, or do I need to do this or that? The key to that is really going to be your relationship with God first. It really is. Like, you need to have a genuine fear of God. If you don't have a genuine fear of God, you won't live within the wisdom, like within the boundaries of a healthy relationship. Because a relationship with God is going to be kind of like this protective shield, at least to like to save you from really deep hurts, really deep betrayals, really deep deceptions or expectations and stuff like that. So that's what you have to deal with first. Like, you need to have a genuine fear of God. And when I say fear of God, I don't mean like, oh, you need to be tormented, like, oh, he's going to send me to hell. Like, no, you need to have like that. Man, like, you know your dad loves you, but you're scared of him at the same time. You know, like, you know, if you're doing something bad, he's gonna like, man, be displeased. Like, that's the kind of relationship you need to like have in God. And your relationships get straightened out as you walk out your relationship with God. Because if God tells you, okay, what's right to do this, it's wrong to do that, you're gonna know what to do in a particular relationship. And if you don't like have enough wisdom or enough like understanding about what steps you need to take, man, talk to the people like that have been through some stuff, that have walked out their like life in God and are mature, are believers. Like, man, the body is there for a reason, guys. The church itself is the primary people to look to for whenever you need things like help in situations like that, you know. And guys, if you don't have that, man, look for it. Look for the people that are going to listen to you and who are going to give you biblical advice, not the people that are going to be like, oh yeah, you need to do this and you need to do that. Like, don't go to the people you know are going to tell you what you want to hear. Like, that's probably the worst thing you could do. And I know that's like a normal thing because we want to affirm what we want and we believe and this and that. But it's like, man, if you're truly striving to be biblical, you're truly striving to please God, look for the people that have lived out like that and that are not afraid to confront you, like that are not afraid to tell you, hey, like, man, maybe you need to do this because the Bible says this, or what do you think about this? Like, and it doesn't even have to be like assertive, like, you know, like, oh no, you're wrong, you know, whenever, like, I think a lot of times we think that people are going to be like that and that they're just going to condemn us. And it's like, man, like, listen to those people. Like, those people are there for a reason. And you can tell who they are. Like, man, talk to them, like, get to know people. Like, don't just judge them and assume things about them. Like, man, really get to know people and ask them, hey, what is your, like, opinion or your biblical advice, like what you understand by the scripture in this situation, what should I do? So that's gonna like save you so many heartbreaks, so many headaches. I promise you guys, I guarantee it. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that it's helped, and I encourage you, man, whatever depends on you, do it, and talk to people if you're not sure. And fix it if you have to, you know, for the sake of peace in your life, for the sake of peace in your heart. Like, do it. It's important to your worship. It's important to God for you to be, you know, well and pure when you come to him. So I guess that's it. I'll see you guys next time.